Hi, everybody. I'm Grainne, compulsive eater. Everybody, I know everybody here, so this is great. I'm abstinent and grateful today because I weigh and measure 3 meals a day from the Gray Sheet. I turn those meals over to my qualified Gray Sheet food sponsor or another one. I eat what I've committed and nothing else, and all of it, no matter what. And my abstinence is the most important thing in my life without exception. And my abstinence date is September 16th, 1994. And thank you, Layla, for inviting me and reminding me and sending me the link, all very organized. And thank you to those of you who started the meeting. I love the topic and the idea and the concept of this meeting. It's always really struck me that the purpose of our meetings, the reasons we gather together, is to be somewhere where other people can come and find the message, find the solution. That's the main reason we have meetings. And in the Father Fellowship in AA, people will sometimes say, you know, meetings aren't in the book, but they actually are in the big book. And it says, I was trying to find it, but I can't find it right now. It says something like, it became their custom to set aside a time and a place each week where the new person could find, who was seeking a spiritual solution, could find it. And that's it. Like, we get together so that we can put on a bulletin board Saturday at 9, Tuesday at 8, come together and hear the solution. And that's why we have these meetings. And so I just love that you guys, those of you who are involved in founding this group, you know, use that concept. And that's why I always loved that in Gray Sheet, a lot of groups read the part, well, most groups that I think all of our groups read the group purpose that says we share, no, it's not actually in the group purpose, is it? Where is it? It's somewhere that says, that what did we share? We share something like, oh, I can't think of the words now. It was in my head earlier. Anyway, about that we come to share the message. Like, we don't come here for therapy. We don't come here to dump all our problems on a bunch of other people and get everybody to say, poor you, poor you. We come here to share a vigorous and positive message on Gray Sheet abstinence. And I remember in the early days, I would come and, you know, talk about all the challenges to my abstinence and how horrible it had been. Like the time I sat with my professor who took me out for lunch in my first year of abstinence, and I sat there staring at this salad and I didn't know what to do with it. I just couldn't do anything with it. I was completely useless. I just had no idea how to handle the situation. So I just sat there and throughout the thing, I can't remember a word that ended up happening at this really important luncheon that we were having. And I just poked at the food and went home and ate my weighed and measured lunch. So I shared about it at the meeting, and my sponsor said, and you stayed abstinent. Like, you had this nightmare of a lunch, but you stayed abstinent. So I was sharing about, I wasn't sharing like, this is awful, I can't do this. It was, this is awful and I'm still abstinent on the other side of it. Like, I could stay abstinent through anything. So I was thinking this morning in my quiet time, it occurred to me that if I can be abstinent, anybody can be abstinent. And I was thinking about all the reasons that's true. So first of all, this is a 12-step program, and its primary purpose is to help us find a spiritual solution, a connection to a power greater than ourselves that can give us the power to avoid our addiction. Well, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in a supreme being. I don't believe in the supernatural forces. how can a 12-step solution work for me? Like, I am the last person for whom a 12-step solution would be the obvious answer. I'm vegan. The Gray Sheet has a whole list of animal proteins and one little line of non-animal proteins. I mean, the list of animal proteins is longer than the vegetable list. You know, we eat more, but more vegetables, but the list of animal proteins, like you'd think it was a carnivore's diet when you look at the Gray Sheet. I'm a vegan. I've been a vegan since the first day I got abstinent. The biggest barrier to this person being abstinent is I'm opinionated and I always think I know what's right. Like, I'm smart, I'm educated, I've read all the books, I've read all the magazine articles, I've read all the research. I know the right answer to everything. I could tell you how to run your life. So don't tell me how to do anything. Like, I always thought I knew. If you think I'm obnoxious these days, you should have known me 27, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, before I got abstinent. Like, I was the most self-righteous, opinionated smartass around. And so I come into a program where you have to surrender and take direction and do these paradoxical things like, yes, this is abstinent, the fruit with the fuzz is abstinent, but this one, the fruit without the fuzz, is not abstinent. Like, what the F, you know, that's ridiculous. And I'm a scientist, I'm rational, this has to make sense, but the Gray Sheet is full of paradoxes. So you just have to surrender. Like, you just have to go, okay, and do it, you know, and ask people what to do. And then the other thing that I always think, sometimes I actually wonder if I belong here. Like, this, it just flits through my mind, like, am I in the right place? Because nobody in my life knew I had a problem. Like, people didn't point to me and say, that girl's got a problem with food. They didn't know I was an addict. They didn't know I was consumed. My mind was 100% consumed with food and what I was going to eat and how big my thighs were. I was, most of my life, I was about 25 pounds overweight. For a couple of years, I was up to 50 pounds overweight. But, you know, lots of people are chubby. Lots of people are heavy. Lots of people even have a few periods of their life where they're fat. So I was entirely normal. I didn't binge. That's the other thing. I didn't make myself sick by eating massive quantities of food. I didn't throw up. I didn't starve myself. I also didn't eat unhealthy food, and I didn't spend a lot of money on food. Like, I'm cheap to the max. I am like the most frugal person I know. I'm also obsessed with health. So I ate really cheap, really healthy foods, and I didn't buy a lot of them. In fact, one of the examples I always use of how I mistreated people in my life before abstinence and recovery was that I loved to go to parties and to go out to eat with people because somebody else was paying, somebody else was providing. Like, free food was my highest priority. I'd be there. If there was something free, I was there. And all my social events revolved around free food. So it's not like I ever, you know, spent the rent on junk food. I didn't eat stuff out of bags and boxes. I ate big sacks from the health food store, you know. So sometimes I could easily look at myself and say, well, you don't have the problem. And nobody else thought I had a problem. In fact, my whole family and all of my friends who knew before think I'm slightly overreacting by doing Gray Sheet. Like, okay, she's managed to have a life despite being abstinent on the Gray Sheet, but really, do you really have to weigh and measure all your food? Do you really have to avoid certain foods? Do you really have to call your sponsor and go to meetings? They think I'm just like overdoing it. So I had so many reasons why this program wasn't going to work for me. And yet, the minute I heard the mantra in 1993, I knew I had been presented with the answer to my, thanks, Melanie, to my lifelong problem. And it was September of 1993. And, you know, I didn't know I was crazy, but here's how crazy I was. That morning, I said, I'm going to kill myself. I'm also just going to eat myself to death slowly. Like, I'm going to kill myself quickly. I'm going to drive off the bridge into the Kalamazoo River. I'm going to kill myself slowly by eating myself to death. And I'm too busy for this shit. I have a very important life. So let me drop all this OA crap and get back to this very important big life that I have. Like, all three thoughts simultaneously, all completely incompatible. And that's how crazy I was. And when that woman, I was so miserable. I was so miserable in the food. I don't know how I managed to get through. I don't know how I managed to pass myself off as a normal human being. I don't know how I had any friends or made a living, because I was completely obsessed with what I was going to eat and what it was going to do to my body. And that morning, I knew it was never going to get better on my own. Like, not that part on my own, I didn't know. I just knew it's never going to get better. And then this woman had the solution. And I don't know why that when she said the mantra, that I knew that that was the solution. Like, if she had said something else, would I have known? Would I have ever, if I'd just known a GreySheeter casually through work or church or something, would I have thought to myself, maybe there's a solution? I don't know. But when she said the mantra, I knew it was the answer. And so I've been abstinent ever since, except I had 2 day ones where Grainne thought she knew better than anybody else. 2 more day ones. And my life is completely different. I have a spiritual solution. I have a connection to a power greater than myself. It's not a supernatural God, but it is a connection to other human beings through whom something happens in my life that I could not make happen on my own. And I'm still vegan. I'm still opinionated. I still think I know the answer to everything, but there's a little glimmer that says, maybe other people have answers too, and you could keep your mouth shut long enough for them to say what they have to say. So I get that bit. And I don't have to even be 25 pounds overweight. My weight, I stabilized my weight, I don't know, within the first year, and my weight hasn't varied by more than 5 pounds in 26 years. I don't have to think about my body today. I don't have to think about, I still do occasionally, that's definitely true, but I don't have to. In fact, the thoughts I have about my body these days are, oh my God, I'm 57 and I still get to look like this. Like, or I'll put my hands on my hips. I always say this, I put my hands on my hips and I feel my hip bones and I think, holy shit, I have hip bones. Or I'll be sitting in my car and I will feel, thank you, Melanie, I will feel my back, the bones in my back and my rear end on the car seat. And I remember the days when I could only feel the fat moving on the back of the car seat. And I love being in a normal sized body. I love being able to walk down the street and not worry that people are looking at me and think, well, actually, the thing I enjoy the most is actually eating and not feeling like people are looking at me and saying, she really shouldn't be eating. She should really be restricting her food. Now I don't feel guilty for what I eat. I love my food. I mean, every Every one of my 3 meals is a thrill to me every day. I love every bite of every meal, and I never feel guilty. I have no remorse. I don't feel self-conscious. I don't feel embarrassed. I don't regret it. I don't wake up the next morning thinking, why did I eat that? I wake up every morning going, here comes breakfast. And I'm so happy I'm abstinent. And I haven't even talked about the joys of being with a whole fellowship of people. So I'm just glad to be here with all of you. Abstinent. Thanks.